That's what I'm talking about. There was this idea, this question that Tiffany had in her mind of how can I possibly do this song that is written for an 11-year-old boy? But the creative life force and spirit said, wait a minute, let's come up with a new way. Let's have a new thought about this song. So much so, I want you to write a completely new lyric to this. Let's have a new idea. Good morning, everybody. Are you ready for a new idea? Are you really ready for a new idea? Because here's the thing. I'm over fear. I'm done with it. But here's the thing. I'm human. So it's part of my experience. I'm not done with it. It's not going to leave this vessel. It's part of my emotional makeup. There's actually five basic emotions that we all experience at some point in time in our life. Anger, sadness, joy, sexual feelings, even if you're not having sex, that's the creative nature seeking to reveal itself, and fear. Those are the big five. Doesn't get any more complex than that. We can give them different names like frustration and disappointment. Those are all shades of anger. Fear is a natural part of our experience. So it's interesting, Ernest Holmes writing this book called Living Without Fear, to me it sets us up for a cluster. I love Ernie, but he's setting us up. Oh. We'll see. We'll come back to it. That was usually a couple of glasses of wine after a long day of ministerial school. I would imitate Ernest Holmes. If you've never heard him speak before, go back and think of your best like radio announcer voice from like the 30s and 40s. And so here, I'll read my introduction in Ernest Holmes. What if we could actually live with fear? Living with fear is an ideal, a model, an aspirational statement. We are spirit experiencing humanness. Human experience fear, period. It is as regular as the sun rising and setting, yet we make our fears novel and wrong. Each day, we all look at the world and find the greatest proof that life is no good. Everyone and everything is evil. What if you could look into your day and actively participate in what is happening? What would you produce? What shall we produce? Thank you. What shall we produce? Let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? So we are these spiritual beings that love to vision, right? Anyone do some visioning this year, at least once? Anyone ever had like that hope, that aspirational, like, oh, when I get to, once this happens, right? We all love those things. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's get real humble and see what's happening right now. Let's start with and I'm going to stay in the we for a minute, and then we're going to bring it back to you as an individual. But right now, what shall we produce? But what are we producing? Would you consciously, as a part of the collective we, would you consciously choose to produce a world that is constantly in a state of war, fighting over resources? But yet, what are we experiencing right now? Would you create a world so disconnected from its love, from its trust, patience, acceptance, and understanding that its financial systems aren't set up to sustain the entire community? Would you consciously choose that? But yet, what are we living in? It's a hierarchy of wealth. What about our educational systems? We got some teachers in the house. Raise them up. Hey. Our educational systems don't teach creative, they're not designed to support creative thinking. It's getting right answers. Would you actively want that to be the status quo of education? How about our healthcare system or the health business system? Would you want a health system that promotes earnings over health in the community? But that's kind of what's happening. We are producing right now a bunch of stuff that none of us would ever want to actually come to pass. But the thing is it's come to pass. And there is no one of us that is void responsibility for its expression. Let me repeat that. There is no one of us that is void of responsibility for what is currently happening in the world. Well, you may be like, well, Darrell, I'm not over there, shooting a gun across the country. I'm not actively doing X to create this imbalance in our wealth system. I didn't choose for the system to tell me, no, I can't have that treatment. God didn't willfully create any of this. The universe didn't create this. Spirit did not create this. We did. In partnership with what I like to call the law. That's the way that Ernest Holmes and Science of Mind really gets into this. And I love it because we have a history in our theological, philosophical, and consciousness conversations where we make this essence of life that is creative into a personality that we have to curry favor to and go, oh, I hope that I get what I really want if I do the right thing, if I'm the right person. You were born the right person. You have always been the right person to live your life. There's no other possible version of you that you're going to get. It's you. So deal with it. Use it. Be with it. You have been put on this planet as an individual like no other to bring forward something like nothing else. But we constantly do this weird comparison thing. Oh, I'm not like them. I can't possibly do anything. If Tiffany had said, oh, I'm not like the 9 billion other artists in the world, would she have approached that song in that way and written a new tune? No. But I digress. We're getting into the final days of August and stepping into September. Whether you are actively involved in the educational system or not, as a giver or a receiver of knowledge, we are all students. It's one of the things that Spirit woke me up with in the past few weeks. I've been having this really interesting, deepened experience with the divine, which I'm grateful for. Sometimes I get a little annoyed because it wakes me up at 3 in the morning and I'm like, hi. Well, no one else is up. And I got this really powerful download, but it's nothing new. The message was, Darrell, you are just as much of a student as you are a teacher. Don't ever forget that. So if you think you've gotten to some plateau or destination where you need to know everything that you need to know, humble yourself today and step into the energy of this time of year of going back to school. Let's go back to school today and get to some of the basics of this religious science. Now, I love all teachings. Right? I consider myself the mutt of mutts. Not only am I racially mixed, but I love every single culture. I love all the religions, but there's something really powerful about the lessons of Science of Mind, and I want to strip away maybe some of what some may call a distraction. I don't think anything's a distraction, but I want to get focused. And I really want to embrace these lessons that Ernest Holmes brought forward because we all experience fear. And unfortunately, we let fear dictate the quality of our living. I love this quote that Reverend Amy brought forward for all of us that were speaking this month. from Willis Kinnear. No one imposes fear upon us. Rather, we create it for ourselves in our own thoughts and emotions. What we need to realize is that we have just as much freedom to eliminate fear as we have in creating it. You have just as much power to eliminate fear. And I'm not talking about wiping it off your experience, but in the moment, just check in with yourself right now. What is there to fear in this room or wherever you may be in the world? What is there actually threatening your experience of living right now? We live in a very fortunate part of the country, in the world. Anything in here? Now, do we experience anxiety and fear? Is some of us maybe experiencing that right now? Absolutely. 100%. But is it the result of anything actually in this room? It is a thought. It is a belief. It is an ancestral pulling forward. There are so many things that impact our consciousness, our belief system. But no one imposes it upon you. Now, you may say, well, someone came up and yelled at me and it wasn't very nice. Yeah, okay. But as soon as they stop yelling at you and the energy of that dissipates, it's over. Chances are your mind goes, oh my God, I can't believe they said that to me. That person's so horrible. Is something wrong with me? And you just go into whatever the stories are, and that's where the fear lives. And so what Ernest Holmes is inviting us into in this book, Living Without Fear, it's not so much that you're going to exit out of your life. He is inviting us to powerfully take responsibility to meet our fear. Every single day, minute, hour, whenever it presents itself, whether it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, whether it's light outside or dark. Okay, so the book was divided up amongst all speakers. I got 6 chapters. So we're going to school. And I'm going to just pull something from each one of the chapters, and then we're going to, wrap, hopefully put a beautiful bow on things at the end. But there's just so many good nuggets. The biggest one, it's literally one of the quotes of Ernest Holmes that I go to on a weekly basis. We are chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. What then shall you produce? Think of a chemist for a minute. They're in this room and they've got all this stuff that they can use to make something happen. And it's the bringing together of this substance and that substance which causes fire or a combustion or a calming or a cooling or some sort of activation. It is a law there that says, oh, you're putting some baking soda with vinegar? Is there something inherent in vinegar that causes explosion? No. Is there something inherent within baking soda that causes explosion? No. But there is a law that knows if you mix those two together and shake it in a bottle, it starts to build pressure. Is there anything inherently good or bad about the bottle itself or about those ingredients? Is there anything inherently good or bad about the law? No. You can use that very thing to have some fun as a kid. Put it in a 2-liter plastic bottle, shake it up, and run away, and it pops up into the air, and it's so much fun. You could probably also use that pressure in a destructive way, couldn't you? It's the consciousness, it's the mind that's using the law. The law doesn't have any care about what you do with it. And we can put God in there as well. And this is a really hard thing for many of us because none of us, there's very few people that I have met on my journey, at least in the arc of history where we're in right now, that have grown up with this teaching. Most of us, it's come into our consciousness at some point in our development, usually after our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, where we've had this concretized idea that there's this person outside of us that we have to somehow win over. This lesson, this science of mind, puts us in responsibility. So let's take a look at these chapters. The first one was chapter 13, Mind in Creative Action. This is where the quote came from today. Forms come and go, but the creative principle remains intact. Everyone down with that? Right? Forms come and go. I just turned 49. This form has come and gone in lots of different shapes. It's gone up 10 pounds. It's gone down 20 pounds. It's gone up 40 pounds. It's gone down 30 pounds. But the creative principle stays intact. That if I pay attention to my body and I give it good nutrition, I exercise it and I take care of it, overall, it's in a state of wellness. It doesn't matter how much weight I have or don't have, what size my pants are or they aren't. Those are just indicators that I can use to help me manage my wellness. But the creative principle is that who's responsible for this form? My doctor? No. My parents? Nope. I may have gotten some stuff from them, but they're not responsible for this. Is my partner responsible for it? Is the grocery store responsible for it? No, I am. Forms come and go, but the creative principle remains intact. The spirit itself knows no time, yet all times must be included within it. So there's no novelness. Right? I grew up in that space of like, oh, if I was only younger, oh, if I was only older, if I was born in this time, if I was born in that time. Let go of being born in any other time than the one that you are in, because this is the time where you can use law right now. It knows neither large nor small as size, yet all form is known to it. So there's no exception to a rule. We love exceptions for whatever reason in this modern day and age. There's no exception. Are there exceptional things and people and places? Yes, and if we look at it from the standpoint of the law, it's just someone who's that much more engaged with this creative principle. If we find ourselves not being exceptional in something that we want, then let's just be humble for a minute and say, is there a way that I could engage this law a little bit deeper? The law is, but it must be used. Don't be passive to the law. Use it. Until the time comes when we use this law consciously and constructively, we shall be using it unconsciously and perhaps destructively. That's what's happening in our world. We have collectively lost sight of the fact that we are not only responsible for our own consciousness, but we have family on this planet that is more than our biological family people, that transcends any border that a human person may put on a map, that transcends age, time, race, lineage, culture, societal status, all of it. The world that we are living in right now, as much as we think we may be taking responsibility for it, is actually a world that is not taking responsibility for itself. Yikes, that's not a fun one to take in. I think I'm taking responsibility. Well, of course, we all do it to the best of our ability, but we are not here to be comfortable. We are here to go to that edge of discomfort and find, how else can I step into a greater relationship with the divine? How can I step into a greater relationship with community? How can I step into a greater relationship with my mind, with my body, with my spirit, with everything? Let us not compartmentalize our lives anymore. There is but one life. That life is God's life, and that life is happening as all of you. You may put on some different clothes and go to work, but all the emotional and mental baggage that you've been lugging around doesn't stay at home. It's in your back pocket. It's in the back of your heart. It's on the tip of your tongue. It is influencing every single thing that you do. Why? Because we're chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. Woo, infinite, infinity, to infinity and beyond. Should have worn a Buzz Lightyear costume today. So, what are you thinking right now? Are you thinking a positive thought or a negative thought? Just check in with yourself. You don't need to tell me. Are you thinking a positive or a negative thought? That is adding to your experience. Now, we can't walk around with a little like you're checking people in at a club and you've got the right hand is like positive thought, negative thought, positive thought, negative thought. I don't want you walking around doing that all day. It'll make you a little in the head. I've tried it. But what we can do is just stay as present as possible. And there's so many beautiful things that aid us in understanding what our thoughts are. One of mine is my big old head. I'm 6'2". I haven't had any decent hair for probably about 25 years. So all of you, those with hair that have this beautiful like space that like if you were to walk by a garage door or a trunk or anything and your hair would hit it first, I don't have that luxury of distance. I just gash my head on things. But here's the thing that is really interesting that I've noticed. Whenever that happens, I stop and I go, what was I just thinking? And 9 times out of 10, there was a thought in my mind that wasn't too positive. It wasn't for my good. It might have been some resentment. Ooh, yes, I do get resentful as a minister. So what symptoms are in your life that might be an indicator of where the overarching tone of your thoughts are, right? It's not about one thought. It's like, what's 80% of your thinking? Because that's where the gold and the opportunity is. If 80% of your thinking is in the space of, I might as well just give up. There's not much left for me to do. I don't think I should really explore that because I probably won't get it anyway. But then you come here on Sunday and you go, all right, but you know what? I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray. I'm going to get it together. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. Yes, I can have all those things. Awesome. Do that. But that's probably 1/4%. If you walk out of here and the 80% lives in that realm of, I don't know, maybe, I don't think so. Life isn't really for me. God never really liked me. So I just kind of stay out of God's way, I'm making light of this and trying to stay fun because I want to keep your heart and your mind open. But there's not a heavy responsibility, but there's a big responsibility that we all have that we a lot of times give our power away. Next chapter. Did y'all bring a lunch? Because we just got through 1 of 6. Okay, here we go. The technique of science of mind. He wrote, there is no great and no small to the soul that maketh all. And whence it cometh, all things are, and it cometh everywhere. This was Emerson, not Emerson was that cometh and imeth and thimeth. So in spiritual mind treatment, never try to make things happen. This is a really powerful thing that I think if you left with this today and this was your takeaway, awesome. We want to manipulate and coerce the law so that it fits into a perfect level of understanding and comfort that we have for it. Yeah? We say, God, I want to experience. What does someone want to experience? Just throw out one thing. Peace. Okay. God, I want to experience peace. But what if that invited you to stop having all those conversations with your in-laws? But they're wrong. Okay. But there's no peace. Your life circumstance is going to give you opportunities to be the very thing that you are seeking. God works through us. It's not something that we passively received when something is met. The conditions have already been met for you to experience everything that you want and more. But we have to be responsible to step into it. You feeling me on that? So be careful in your prayers. If it's money that you want, some people will go back and forth on this. Reverend Amy, I don't know where you stand on this in mental equivalence. I know that this is a class right now that really invites us to hold thoughts. But one of the powerful things that, it's not an absolute thing, but if things aren't working, maybe try this on. We want to say, God, give me $5 million, because we've made up this idea. If I have $5 million, if I get this residual income, if I get this thing over here, then everything's going to be good. Ultimately, you want your life to be good, not $5 million. What if you were praying for, God, let me see the good in my life right now? Let me remember that there is a greatness and a goodness that is always around and surrounding me. It's not contingent upon a certain dollar amount, because I guarantee if you've ever read The Soul of Money or any of those prosperity books, there are stories in there of people that are walking around with billions of dollars. One of them may have even been in our White House, I don't know, and doesn't look very happy to me. Not having a great life. It's funny, and it's true. Money doesn't necessarily make anything other than it's an avenue. It's a portal. It's something that we use. So, in terms of how we pray and wants the specificity, it is good to be specific. And sometimes we need to get specific in the quality and the vibration, in the essence of what we want to experience, as opposed to the what of how it's to express. Does that make sense? Okay, moving on. The rediscovery of health. Whew, makes me want to dance. Who wants to be healthier? I hope everyone's hand goes up. I want to be healthier. Listen, the medical practitioner starts with the body. The psychiatric practitioner starts with the mind. The spiritual practitioner starts with the spirit. How many of you are spiritual practitioners? And I'm not talking about licensed and credentialed. How many of you are spiritual practitioners? All of you, put up your hands. No one falls outside of that description. Everyone is a spiritual practitioner. If you are living and breathing, you are a spiritual practitioner. You are spirit having a human experience. Partner your humanness with your spiritual practitioner self and see what happens. So, the spiritual practitioner starts with spirit. So interrelated are these three, body, mind, and spirit, that no person can tell where one begins and the other leaves off. Have you ever sat in contemplation of that before? Where does your body stop and spirit begin? Where does the mind stop and the body or spirit begin? They're intertwined. We shall understand the whole person only through our consideration of this threefold unity of body, mind, and spirit. So health, we are so I'm going to take a deep breath on that one. Okay, so we rely so much on someone else telling us how healthy we are, right? So much so, and I'll own it, I'll speak from my own experience. There's this thing called the annual exam. Anyone ever do that? I hope that everyone does it in some way, shape, or form. I could have been living a great experience. I knew that my blood pressure was good, my digestion was feeling great, and then I go, oh wow, I got my annual with my doctor. The whole week leading up to that appointment, all of a sudden I'm like, what's he gonna say? Oh my God, what's the state of my health? I'm feeling really anxious about going to the doctor. Unconsciously, I've just given all the power away of my mind, body, and spirit to one other person who's going to evaluate in one slice of time as to whether or not things are going good or bad. So much so that I walk in, the first time they take my blood pressure, it usually is through the roof because I'm anxious. And then I get even more anxious. I'm like, oh my God, my blood pressure's up. And finally, I have enough wherewithal, and this is where I'm going to invite you to partner in your well-being. When I go into the doctor, I said, okay, you can take it now because I know that's part of your procedure, but let's do it at the end. And let's just see. I've had a 20-degree difference. Yeah? I've done enough practice now that oftentimes I go and I meditate in the lobby before the doctor calls me in. I walk in and it stays low. But this is the thing, our body, our mind, and our spirit, they're interweaving all the time. And we have to take control and manage what we can, right? So much so, if you've ever listened to Dr. Beckwith speak before, he's like, sometimes all you can eat is a chocolate chip cookie, and if you can bless it and tell and convince your body that it's a piece of broccoli, there will be nutrition that is found somehow in that cookie. I believe that. Now, I'm not saying just eat chocolate chip cookies all day and know that you're going to be healthy. No, but there is something to be said for partnering our body, our mind, and our spirit. Not just one, all three together. That's where true health is found. Do you approach your health completely or partially? Most of us, the business system that is called health, and I'm going to own that this is Darrell's personal opinion, does approach it singularly. If it didn't, then there would be all sorts of faith leaders inside hospitals. There would be all sorts of this alternative health care that's outside of our system, inside hospitals, and the whole person would be treated. Okay, moving on. We're going to do a talk, an after talk, right, today. So take notes, get upset, hang out afterwards. I'm going to post a link on Zoom for those of you online if you want to hang out and listen in as best as we can with the audio, and throw some questions into the chat. This is a lot, but it's so good. Who wants to live in relationship to fear powerfully? Okay, let's keep going. Chapter 16, the control of conditions. Ooh, there's an interesting title. Anyone want to control the conditions of their life? Everyone's like, I don't know. Is that the right answer? And how can we assume such a mental attitude and honesty in sincerity and with conviction unless we are already convinced that whatever the nature of reality is, it is always for and never against us? If you want to control the conditions and the experience of your living, one of the biggest things that you can embody in a greater way is that life is for you and not against you. But if you turn on the news, woo, the collective consciousness spins in the space that life is out to get you. It's out to get you so much, I've got this perfect product that I'd like for you to buy. It'll make you better. Try that on for a week. If you were to wake up every day, regardless of what the day of the week is, regardless of what's on your calendar, you said, okay, today, all right, here we go. I'm going to convince myself for a few moments that God is good all the time as my life, and there's nothing out there that is trying to bring me down. It is all for my good. It is all for my good. Say that. It is all for my good. Some of you are throwing the word BS behind that right now, unconsciously in the background. That's okay. That's a weed. If you've ever heard the analogy of that our consciousness, there's all sorts of weeds that grow in our thoughts, right? If you've had a garden before, you plant good stuff, you see a tomato, and you turn around and you come back and there's this other weird thing growing. How did that happen? It was there in the ground and it got some of the water and the attention. All you got to do is weed it. So if you've got a BS or a bull crap or whatever, Darrell, in the background, don't make yourself wrong. Just notice that and go, maybe this is an area where I could greater be in relationship and responsibility with what I want in my life. It is impossible to practice this science either scientifically or effectively unless we are willing to subject our thought to this test. One of the biggest things when I first walked into this teaching over 20 years ago now was Ernest Holmes saying, don't believe me, prove it for yourself. Here he says it again. It is impossible to practice this science either scientifically or effectively unless we are willing to subject our own thought to the test. Does this work? Do my thoughts actually impact how I relate to the world? If the mind embodies goodness, it can speak goodness. If it has an equivalent of peace, it can give peace. If it has a sense of abundance, it can demonstrate supply. But the moment it falls into the error of mental manipulation, it has reduced itself to the level of wishing and willing, and its power soon becomes exhausted. The fire dies out, and the ashes of hope lie dead and cold upon the altar of a broken faith. Dang. I'm going to read that again. When I read that the other night, I was like, holy crap, Ernest Holmes, you just punched me in the gut. If the mind embodies goodness, it can speak goodness. If it has an equivalent of peace, it can give and be peace. If it has a sense of abundance, it can demonstrate supply. But the moment this is how quickly it happens. But the moment it falls into the error of mental manipulation, it has reduced itself to the level of wishing and willing, and its power soon becomes exhausted. The fire dies out, and the ashes of hope lie dead and cold upon the altar of a broken faith. The beauty is that every single moment, you have the opportunity to stoke the fire. Just as quickly as the wind of doubt can come in and blow out that fire, you can do something to embrace it and bring it up. But it requires you to do something. God's not going to do anything to you. God's not actually going to do anything for you. But God will do something with you. With you. The law works with you. And how is it that we use the law? Through this amazing thing called spiritual mind treatment, prayer, affirmations, whatever you want to call it. The infinite mind must contain an answer to every legitimate question. The final chapter in the book is called An Answer to Every Problem. Call into mind right now a problem in your life that you have not yet found the answer for. I know you got one, maybe even 2 or 10. Whether they be personal, collective, familial, community-based, call into mind a problem and see if you are willing to embrace this truth in the face of that problem in your life. The infinite mind must contain an answer to every legitimate question. Infinite intelligence knows and will willingly respond to any and every properly made request. We have immediate access to this intelligence, and is a very real sense that the answer to every question potentially lives within us, because we are within this mind, right? We say there's one mind, there's one life. It's not separate from us. We are one with it. So if this mind has all the intelligence, we should learn to consciously draw upon it. In seeking answers to our problems and questions, we need to realize and know this statement. Take a deep breath in and close your eyes. There is an intelligence in me which knows the answer to every question. There is nothing unknown to this mind. It has the solution to every problem. This mind is my mind. It is now working in me, through me. It is acquainting my intellect, my conscious mind, with the desired information. And if there's doubt in your mind, know that there is something greater than the doubt that is there. Meet it and come back once again. There is an intelligence in me which knows the answer to every single question. There is nothing unknown to this mind. It has the solution to every problem. This is my mind now. It is now working in me, through me. It is acquainting my intellect, my conscious mind, with the desired information. You are a container, a portal, an avenue through which the law expresses itself. This has always been the truth and will continue to be the truth. I like the word container. You are a container that is not one size. You're not like a one-size Ziploc. You're this interesting, weird, expandable container that can take in as much or as little. Law, the fulfillment of your wishes, seek to pour itself into you. If you are not receiving the thing that you desire, the stuff that you want, the experience that you are desiring and craving, all we need to do is expand that container. There isn't enough room. Let's make some room right now. As opposed to a thing, call into your mind a quality of spirit, an experience, an attitude that you would like to have more of in your life. Maybe it's love, trust, patience, wholeness, creativity, freedom, joy, opulence, health, wholeness. Pick one word to focus on today and finish this phrase. I am. What is it that you are? I am health. I am wise. I am free. Pour this into yourself right now. Say it over and over again. I am, and finish the statement with your word. Breathing it in. I am. I am peace. I am love. I am sufficiency. I am greatness. I am wholeness. I am all the things that have ever needed to be made manifest right now. I am the divine. I am wholeness. I am opulence. I am enough. I am the perfect job. I am the perfect partner. I am perfect health. I am. What are you? Pour that into your consciousness and watch it expand the container in your day this week. And so all of these I ams, let us take into a collective moment of affirmation, knowing that first and foremost there is but one power in presence. It is the law of life that seeks to do one thing only, and that is to pour itself through you. We are one with it, and it is one with us. It is not separate. And so this very day, let us have an experience of a greater embodiment of the divine as us. It is not something we have to get. Let us simply expand our capacity to receive all that is. We are peace. We are not war. We are connected. We are not disconnected. All of the things that we place upon us to separate ourselves, in this moment, let us move into a space of oneness and unity with all that life is, and know that it is from that oneness, it is from that unity, that mind, that great mind that knows the answer to every single question that we may ask, it is something that is indwelling within us. We just need to give it space to speak. Let it speak. and give us the answers of our heart's desire and guidance and direction this very week and all of the days of our lives. We are here to live in the question and the answer. So let us do that starting now. A nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, say, I am ready. I am ready. That's all you need to be. How grateful I am for the collective and the individual readiness right here and right now as the result of our time together. We let the expression be, and so it is.
And so
Amen.
it is.
Stick with that statement. I am it. Whatever that is for you. Don't lose it. You're feeling something right now. Maybe some upliftment, some vibration, a smile. Hopefully some sort of buzzing or tingling. That can be sustained. But now it's your responsibility to sustain it by declaring who you are. I am. Peace and blessings to you all.